It turns out that both Trey Parker and Matt Stone are already preparing for the DEI special. The reason why South Park is striking back at Disney is due mostly to the fact that they have been causing more issues behind the scenes.
The last time I had the dream, I was walking down the school hallway, and that's when I started to notice that something's wrong. Everyone I cared about has been systematically replaced. And finally, I want to scream, and I'm like, why are they replacing every single character with someone who is diverse?
Hey, Bob, if you're in the audience, go yourself.
Nothing has brought me greater joy than watching the Walt Disney Company absolutely panic over the last few weeks. They're mad at South Park because they're making fun of their woke ideologies, constantly race swapping or religion swapping everything in their movies.
South Park's episode didn't just tease Rachel Zegler and Disney's shaky Snow White remake, it ripped them apart with ferocious precision. The remake was already stumbling toward disaster.
Every way that Disney changed the story, it changed it for the worse.
But the show's merciless satire sent it crashing over the edge. The internet didn't merely buzz, it exploded. That controversial casting choice had already sparked a storm of grumbling.
So you recently starred in the movie Snow White. Tell me, what was it like to play Snow Latina?
First of all, Steven, it was weird. But I did enjoy reimagining the character as a woke Colombian woman who looks like a fish.
When it got announced, it was a huge thing that was like trending on Twitter for days because all of the people were angry.
But when the animated Titan fired its shot, the simmering tension ignited into a raging inferno. The episode hit hard and didn't hold back. It ridiculed, imitated, and blew up every single thing fans had been ranting about online for months.
Zegler has now decided to turn off replies on Instagram following major backlash over the Snow White movie because she is getting completely roasted.
Zegler's name skyrocketed to the top of trending lists in mere hours. Memes swamped timelines, clips got shared, sliced apart, and remixed.
Don't worry, friends, I'll save you!
Some fans roared with laughter, others squirmed in discomfort, but everyone, remake lovers and haters alike, couldn't stop talking. The parody didn't just poke fun at Rachel, it turned her own words into explosive ammo.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird.
Interviews and sound bites morphed into hilarious ticking bombs. And boom, just like that, Disney's shiny new fairy tale crashed into a pop culture catastrophe. The second South Park unleashed their brutal takedown.
Society is far too racist and misogynist to appreciate the reimagining of a classic Disney princess as an ugly Colombian chick.
The chaos spun wildly out of control. What came next was a PR disaster dripping with savage satire. Rachel Zegler wasn't just painted as a clueless starlet in South Park's version. Oh no, it gets wilder.
Now don't tell me who you are. Let me guess. You're Doc.
Why, yes, that's true.
You're gay.
The upcoming DI special, a follow-up to their notorious Pandiverse episode, took it to the extreme. Rachel morphed into a larger-than-life caricature, like something yanked straight from the wildest, noisiest pits of online chatter. Subtlety? Forget it.
South Park and their continued use of parody to call out their failing business.
They dove headfirst into jaw-dropping spectacle. In the animated chaos, Rachel stormed onto sets, hijacking every moment and unleashing endless, preachy tirades about how the classic Snow White was a toxic fossil of yesteryear. She didn't just brush things off. She went full-on militant, shrieking at her co-stars, scoffing at script ideas with dramatic eye rolls. She'd launch into fiery monologues about equity and rewrite the fairy tale into what she dubbed a modern rescue mission through progress. Every time another character dared to speak, she'd bulldoze right over them. Proclaiming herself the lone warrior bold enough to smash toxic nostalgia, she trashed the original Snow White as poisonous garbage.
And we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Sneering at any whiff of romance or tradition. The parody's genius didn't just lie in its wild absurdity. It was how eerily it nailed the truth. Rachel's real-life interview comments fueled the fire, and the animated version of her, though totally over the top, didn't feel like pure fantasy. It hit way too close to home.
The original story had Snow White falling in love with the prince, but in the remake that's super weird and makes no sense. What kind of prince would fall for a woke Colombian woman who looks like a fish?
And as she rampaged through the parody, acting like society's lone savior, everyone else in the room, cartoon Disney execs to her animated co-stars just winced. They were stuck, torn between speaking out or bracing to get flattened next. Craziest thing? It mirrored stuff she's actually said before, almost too close for comfort. But wait, there's more. What went down behind closed doors after that parody hit the airwaves? That's the jaw-dropper you won't see coming. It started out like a dream gig. Every up-and-coming actress would have fought tooth and nail for it. Rachel Zegler, fresh off her stunning breakout in West Side Story, was celebrated as a dazzling new talent with the voice, charm, and star power to carry a huge studio blockbuster. Disney couldn't wait to shout it from the rooftops. She'd be their Snow White in a bold live-action remake.
Everyone on West Side Story has so much stuff. Ariana DeBose has like a poster from the set. I have nothing.
That's amazing. The ideal fresh face for a whole new era of fairy tale legends. This was pitched as the ultimate game changer. A dazzling mashup of timeless Disney magic and fresh, modern twists tailor-made for today's crowd. The press couldn't stop raving. Big shots in the industry dubbed it a gutsy leap forward. Rachel herself gushed about the gig, calling it an incredible privilege. "I want to light a fire in girls everywhere," she declared. But here's where it gets interesting. The hype train was locked and loaded, ready to blast off, until that shiny story fell apart fast. You won't believe what happens next. Barely a few days passed before the storm of backlash hit hard. Die-hard fans of the 1937 classic were downright furious, casting a Latina actress as a character named Snow White.
Snow White gets her name not from the fairness of her skin, as we obviously know Rachel Zegler would be a miscast in that sense. Instead, she gets her name from surviving a snowstorm.
Snow White ignited a firestorm of arguments all over the web. Critics and YouTubers swarmed comment sections, hammering one burning question. And then it took a turn. Why pick an actress who obviously can't stand the classic tale?
People know her name because they know her as that annoying, loudmouth feminist actress who worked hard for 2 years to tank her own movie.
But hold on, it gets wilder. It wasn't just the casting. Rachel let loose in interview after interview, slamming the original hard. She called it strange and old-fashioned.
Like, I'm being so serious. I watched it once and then I went on the ride in Disney World, which was called Snow White's Scary Adventures. Doesn't sound like something a little kid would like. Was terrified of it.
She labeled the prince a total creep. She insisted Snow White's days of swooning over love were done. She's chasing power now. To tons of fans, this wasn't a step forward. It was a total wipeout of the classic. But here's the real shocker. South Park swooped in. Trey Parker and Matt Stone thrive on stirring the pot. They've built their whole empire on smashing boundaries, roasting untouchable icons, and plunging straight into the wildest pop culture chaos without blinking. From religion to politics to juicy Hollywood messes, nothing's too sacred for South Park's fearless duo. They've shredded world leaders, roasted celebs, torched massive companies, and dismantled whole belief systems with razor-sharp jabs that turn episodes into instant internet gold. And then the plot thickens. They came armed to the teeth with fresh fuel this time. The target? A project already sinking under a tidal wave of scandal, Disney's live-action Snow White. Months of online fury, media mayhem, and a lead actress stirring up endless debates set the stage. Parker and Stone grabbed this juicy mess and whipped up a brutal parody that spared nothing. Their DI special, a wild spiritual follow-up to the Pandaverse, dropped a scene so jaw-dropping that viewers hit rewind in disbelief, desperate to confirm the madness they just witnessed. But wait, there's more. This is only the beginning of the chaos. This wasn't just a playful poke at Snow White. Oh no. It was a ruthless teardown of Disney's whole controversial new path. The rage from diehard fans and the lightning rod figure leading the charge, Rachel Zegler, fueled the fire. Their Snow White parody hit like a sledgehammer, over the top, downright ridiculous, yet so freakishly tied to reality that viewers were left reeling in shock. And then the plot thickens. How could something this wild feel so uncomfortably true? Every single line oozed with hidden jabs, tearing into the new film's plot twists and casting choices with glee. But it didn't stop there. It skewered Hollywood's shameless addiction to fake virtue signaling too. Fans couldn't look away as the animated Rachel character spat out near-perfect, mocking echoes of her most infamous real-life interviews. The likeness was no accident. It sharpened the mockery into a brutal strike. For fans already fed up with the remake's path, South Park's version felt like a glorious, overdue cheer. But for the film's backers, it was a squirm-worthy wake-up call. This parody didn't just graze the target. It smashed through the walls and rattled the very core. Their take on Rachel was bold, brash, and dripping with smugness. She bellowed about saving the world, tossed the plot aside, and slammed the evil queen for even trying to steal her shine. It was a blistering takedown, and it exploded online fast. Within hours, clips from the special swarmed social media, with fans posting side-by-side showdowns of the parody and Rachel's real-life interviews. The similarities were downright eerie. This wasn't just satire, it was a bold statement. And that's when the chaos erupted. Insiders spill that Rachel was livid, feeling ambushed and betrayed. Sources say she took the parody as a vicious stab at her core, not just as an actress carving her path, but as a woman of color pushing to shatter old molds and redefine Hollywood's classic roles. To her, this cartoonish mockery wasn't just about her Snow White takes. It was a vicious slam against her fight for diversity, inclusion, and change in an industry that's long silenced voices like hers. In her eyes, the satire ripped apart her hard work, turning her fierce passion into a cheap laugh and trashing the causes she'd vowed to champion. She was ready to fire back with a statement to set the record straight. Disney execs didn't waste a second. They pounced into action behind closed doors, hit hard by the South Park parody's sting. Emergency meetings kicked off right away, scrambling to gauge the PR disaster and figure out how to stop the bleeding before it spiraled out of control. Their fix? A jaw-dropping, all-or-nothing move. Disney clamped down hard. They ordered Rachel to zip it completely. No tweets, no Instagram rants, not even a whisper in interviews.
Disney even sent some producers, some of their own producers, to go have a talk with Rachel Zegler and tell her, hey, you gotta clean up your act, you gotta delete this, this, and this. This is completely going to backfire.
She had to vanish from all media. It wasn't just the parody they feared. It was the explosive second wave of outrage her words could unleash. The big shots at Disney were terrified that even a harmless explanation could explode in their faces, fanning the flames of scandal and sinking the company into an even bigger mess. No changes, no chats with the media, no press conferences. They were frozen in fear. One wrong move could set the whole disaster ablaze. Even a whispered chance of her hitting the SNL stage was shot down fast. Disney blamed it on scheduling conflicts. But the real story was obvious to all. Rachel Zegler was pure poison now. Inside Disney, total madness was breaking loose. And then it took a turn. Bob Iger, freshly back as CEO, was already drowning in colossal headaches that could stump even the toughest bigwig. Die-hard fans who'd stuck with Disney forever were ditching subscriptions left and right, fed up with exhaustion and a brand that didn't feel like the rock-solid Disney they once adored. And now, the Snow White remake, a flick supposed to breathe new life into Disney's name, turned into a total joke, with South Park cranking the humiliation up tenfold. Insiders spilled that panic was hitting hard. Emergency meetings were firing off every single day. PR crews were racing to spin fresh excuses, while rumors swirled of massive reshoot overhauls and whole scenes getting slashed. Was it Rachel for running her mouth? Gal Gadot for supposedly butting heads with her? The fans for pushing back against change? Or South Park for making the whole mess a giant laugh riot? Rachel felt stabbed in the back, and word is her team started digging into legal moves, claiming Disney trashed contract promises for promo hype, spotlight, and media buzz before the film's big debut. Sources in the know say Rachel and her crew were convinced Disney didn't just drop the ball. They left her hanging out to dry as the backlash roared, and even shoved her out of big press moments she was promised. Rachel's legal eagles reportedly started digging into every tiny detail of her contract, hunting for proof Disney's moves broke their deal. No lawsuit had hit the courts yet, but just the whisper of legal action showed how badly things had shattered between the star and the studio. Gal Gadot, once hailed as the movie's shining hero, now found herself tangled in a web of juicy rumors. Whispers claimed she and Rachel hadn't exchanged a single word in weeks, and the set was a pressure cooker ready to explode. Whole scenes got trashed because of bitter clashes, and the internet couldn't stop turning it into hilarious memes. The buzz took a wild twist. It wasn't just Snow White on the chopping block anymore. It was a full-on clash of old-school culture against bold new progress. Representation slammed headfirst into respect. Rachel's fans cheered her on, shouting that she was blazing a trail with fresh storytelling, smashing dusty fairy tale cliches to bits. But her critics? They fired back, slamming her as cocky, trashing a timeless tale, and then whining when the heat came down. Now, everyone's asking one burning question. Can Snow White 2025 even survive this mess? The chances look grim. The movie's already been pushed back, patched up with reshoots, and totally rewritten. Its stars are battling the studio and the public's view, completely taken over by savage satire. Even if the visuals blow your mind, even if the acting's top-notch, even if Gal Gadot crushes it as the Wicked Queen, can it claw its way out of this chaos? Or will it crash and burn as the flick that shattered Disney's empire? It's a fiery clash of shiny new messages smashing into old school dreams. And it's how quickly everything spins out of control when two generations battle over what a princess should even look like. Rachel Zegler didn't mean to light the fuse on a massive culture war. Will she bounce back from this mess? Only time knows the answer.